want some sauce?
Scene 1, Apple, take 1.
Today, we're going to end up making rouladen. 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 Sometimes it's hard to hear that R, but it's rouladen if you're from the United States. And this is actually pretty easy to make, but requires just a little prep. What I've got here is just some beef round, top round, not a big deal. $5 is kind of like a lot for the size in my opinion. When you see brown stuff like that, don't worry about it. That is just a sign that the meat has not had a lot of oxygen in that area. Doesn't mean that it's bad or anything along those lines. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be taking off this fat. And I'm going to actually render some of this fat in the pan that I'm going to use to cook this. I'm also going to be removing areas like this. I don't want any type of tough membrane or fat or anything like that that is going to mess with the texture of this, as well as I don't want anything breaking down during the time that I'm cooking it and causing an opening. Okay, so this stuff I can render down, and the meat I can just give my dog afterwards. So now that we've got this cut up pretty good, what we're going to do is we're going to take our knife and we are going to try to cut right down the center of this and make it into 2 pieces. And the way that you do it is you kind of just put your palm by like pushing down on the meat and being careful not to cut through and slice your hand. But you just continue making cuts like this, and eventually you'll end up having 2 pieces. Now we're going to take a piece of saran wrap, place it up on here, and we're going to flatten it even more with a hammer. If you don't have a hammer, just use a cast iron skillet. This is probably the only time you can get away with beating your meat in the kitchen. Now we're going to put some mustard down, and generally anytime I'm cooking like German food, I will typically end up using a stone ground type mustard, kind of like this one here. You can use like a Dijon or something if you want to. This just seems right to me. I'm going to take part of an onion here, and I think for what we're making, half of an onion will be more than enough. Now I think for the amount that I'm making, this is probably going to be just fine. I don't want to really overdo the onion on the inside here. I just want to put a hint of it. Some people won't even put this inside. They'll just have it where it's in the sauce. That's completely up to you. Okay, so nothing is set in stone here. We're also going to end up having to cut up some bacon. Okay, using big chunks and thick chunks of bacon is a good idea, but I don't really have any of that available to me. So I'm just going to end up running a knife down this here. Maybe another time right here. Stacking all of these. And this is the pan that I was rendering that fat down in, some of that other meat. That's why it looks like that. But we're going to end up throwing our bacon in here, and we are going to fry this up. So let's go ahead and fry this up. We'll let it get crispy. So we went ahead and we cooked up the bacon. I left about this much bacon fat in there just to help fry up the meat here in just a little bit. The bacon here has cooled off a little bit. It's better to let it cool all the way so you don't start cooking your meat. But I am going to take a kosher dill pickle, throw this guy right in the middle. This is only 1/4 of one. I'm going to take just a little bit of salt on the inside here. I'm not going to have to add too much because we have that bacon. Ground black pepper. This is marjoram. And if you don't have marjoram, I'm not going to tell anybody if you use oregano. I'm going to grab a few toothpicks. Now if you want to, okay, if you want to, You know, you could take the back of your knife and you could put some carrot inside here, kind of like this. With the celery back here, I'm going to be making some very, very fine pieces so I can sprinkle inside the meat as well. Now, there's some people that don't put any of this stuff inside the meat. What they do is they just make basically like a gravy, like a sauce, with all of these things in it. And the only thing that would really be inside the meat is just some of the seasoning, the mustard, the pickle, and the bacon, and that, you know, that's pretty much it. Whatever we don't put in there, not a big deal. They'll just go into the sauce. So now what I want to do is I want this to really kind of become a like a burrito, like a meat burrito. Okay, so we're gonna take this and do our best to kind of fold this in, and this will prevent a lot of the stuff from rolling out of it. Okay, and after we get here, we're going to take a toothpick, jam it in. Anywhere that looks like some stuff can come out, get a toothpick and jam it in. We're going to start cutting up our vegetables. And like I always say, you know, when you're cooking, everything's up to you. You know, recipes are great and everything, but at the end of the day, it's all about what you like. I'm going to throw all the onions, put the celery, and basically everything that we had made there. I'm going to put a little bit more bacon in this. While that's getting ready to come to temperature, let's put some black pepper in here. A little bit of salt, not too much, because we know we end up having that bacon in there. So I'm going to pour a little bit of an organic red wine in here. The reason why I'm using red is because we're cooking beef. If I was using chicken or fish, I'd be using white. I don't have any beef broth, but I do have some chicken. So I'm going to put some chicken stock in here too. Okay, this is cooked down pretty much to the way that I want it. You'll see that all the vegetables are now soft and everything. A lot of the flavor has shown up there. If we look at the broth, we'll see that it's kind of dark. And that black pepper I put in there had made this quite spicy, which I was actually surprised. But the salt on it seems just a little weak, but I'm not going to be adding any because I know as this reduces, the salt content is going to become more intense, it's going to be stronger. So I'm not going to add any. And anytime that you do a reduction, you always have to be careful of that. You know, adding too much before it reduces because it can become overpowering. So now that we have this where I want it, I'm going to turn the fire off. I'm going to be putting this in another container and freeing this up so I can fry my rouladen. So we're going to take our roulade or rouladen and we are going to put it in that hot oil and we're going to brown up the sides of it, and if we're lucky, seal up some of it. Okay, now that smells pretty damn good. We're going to go ahead and just let this kind of cook in its own juices for a while. You know, I'm going to add just a little bit of thyme to this because I honestly think that that's going to end up helping the flavor out quite a bit. Okay, so we're going to start getting ready to do our potatoes. We got a little bit of bacon left over from earlier. I've got an apple here that I'm going to end up peeling, and I also have a potato here that I'm going to end up peeling. So what we're going to do is we are going to take these apples, or this apple, there's only one, and we want to cut this up into cubes. That way they'll cook a little bit faster. Okay, so I had cooked that in there for quite a while, and I know it's cooked all the way through. We're going to take a strainer and we are going to strain that juice out. But first I want to put this somewhere where it won't get damaged. Now, if you want to, you can serve it with these vegetables, but I'm going to be making more of like a gravy. Now the potatoes have been done, and the apples, I'm going to throw some butter in there and we're going to smash them. Throw some bacon in there. It's pretty good. I'm going to be putting some salt in here. Ground black pepper. Just a touch of apple cider vinegar. Okay, we got to make some toppings. We need to make a topping for that potato, and I have me half of an onion that I had used yesterday. I didn't need the rest today, so we can put that inside here. I'll put a little bit of salt, put a little bit of oil inside there, and then we're going to caramelize these. Okay, now caramelizing this, all we're going to do is basically fry this at a low to medium-low temperature until basically these become soft and they start turning brown. So these have been sauteing for about 15 minutes. And what I'm going to do is add a little bit of butter to these. And then in a little bit, we're going to use this pan to reduce the sauce for the roulade. One thing that I should mention that I had forgotten to was inside the potatoes I had added just a little bit, just a pinch of nutmeg. Not a lot. When I say a pinch, literally like just a pinch, go like that. Okay, so we're about ready to reach the moment of truth here. We're going to go ahead and take these onions out. Now this is only enough for one, so I think that's probably going to be enough flour. And we want to cook this for a little bit to get the raw flavor of flour out. If you want to, you can use cornstarch and water. Generally, making a roux, 50-50. So whatever you put in there for fat, that's what you put in with the flour. But if we let this cook for a couple of minutes, that rawness will disappear, and then we'll be able to put some sauce in there. And now that we can see that this flour is starting to turn brown, we know that that rawness has kind of disappeared too. So I'm going to come over here, pour some of the sauce in here, and it should thicken up. Add a little bit of butter. Now if the sauce is a little too strong, like it's a little too bold, it's got a little bit too much acid, or it's got a little bit too much salt, or it's got a little bit too much pepper, you can put a touch of like half and half in there of cream, and it'll settle it down a little bit. And then we can start getting ready to plate this. Get these toothpicks out. Don't forget to take these guys out. There's nothing delicious about a toothpick. We'll take some of that sauce, pour it on top here. Put the potatoes with the apples right there, and then top that with a little bit of caramelized onion. Actually put the rest of the caramelized onions just like right here, so that way if they want to use them for the rouladen, it's there, but at the same time they can put more on the potatoes if they want to. This is a little bit of parsley. Now that I'm done with it, I realize I should have made some red cabbage to go with this. There you go, guys. Rouladen, or roulade. It smells really, really good in here. And I wish I could eat some, but unfortunately I can't with all my intolerances and food allergies. But my wife is going to be eating very well tonight. Anyway, guys, that is that. If you enjoyed the video, make sure that you click subscribe and make sure you hit like. I got a lot more videos that are just like this, if not even better. And I'm going to be making a lot more in the future. So until next time, talk to you later.